Hello, everybody, and welcome to another week of Beyond Parody and Not the Bee podcast. I'm your host and the founder of Not the Bee, Dan Dillon, and I'm joined by my normal panel, Robin Garfield, co-host and Babylon Bee writer.
Hello, hello. Joel
Abbott, our editor-in-chief.
It is I.
And Mr. B, our tech guru. It's now official because he has it listed on the video. He has it listed under his name as Tech Guru. And he's not going to say anything because he's muted. This has been a week of winning from Donald Trump. It came out, there was a flurry of just a ton of stuff happening over the past week that started on last Friday all the way through this week. Trump achieving a ceasefire in India and Pakistan right after the escalation that was happening there. He brought home the last American hostage, got a free Air Force One, made an in-principle economic agreement with China and pausing the tariffs for 90 days. And he issued an executive order that was limiting the extortion of U.S. citizens from Big Pharma's profits. Some of these are a little bit controversial and we don't have all the details on them, but I mean, it was just like bang, 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 all these different things. And the big story of the week was Trump going over to the Middle East, giving some speeches over there and kind of showing us that the president of the United States actually can speak again publicly, which is good, that we have a warm body in the office. And it seems like a new era of American diplomacy in the Middle East, which I know everybody does get bored by talking about the Middle East a little bit, but it is an interesting new way to approach the Middle East, and the way that they've brought him in basically with a red carpet and all of these crazy, they had a bunch of camels and displays and military parades and things like that going on while he was there. I've never seen an American president received that way in the Middle East. Have you?
In Saudi Arabia, it was. Did you read Trump's tweet or truth or whatever he posted about the camels? They were the best camels he's ever seen. They were the most beautiful camels.
The most beautiful camels.
The most beautiful camels. I mean,
he admired the palace. He's like, "This is marble, and I know construction. It's beautiful, beautiful marble." And he's like, "And those camels, I haven't seen camels like that in a long time."
The beautiful camels. Beautiful.
That was pretty good, Joel. That's a pretty good impersonation there.
He seems to be in a good mood while he's over there. I think they use home decorations similar to his style over there.
Yeah, I think his speech that he gave was one of the best. That was nice, Dan. It was one of the better, more cogent, more laid out, more clear foreign policy speeches I've heard of my lifetime. I thought it was a very strong speech. I thought he hit the right notes. I thought he laid out a pretty clear plan. I'm interested to see what he ends up doing with Syria, what he ends up doing with Saudi Arabia, what carrots and sticks that he is dangling over them to get them to move on a few really key points of foreign policy. But overall, I thought it was a successful visit. I think he nailed it. And I think it's very interesting to see the reaction back home too from a lot of people.
It was interesting to hear an American president go over there and instead of saying, you guys are going to do things our way, kind of praise the way that they had gotten to where they're at, which some people are definitely going to take issue with. There's these countries, there's a lot of history between our country and theirs. There's a lot of history between their countries and Islam. There's it's not okay to just, I think, blanket, like go over there and just say, because you're wealthy, you guys have done this your own way and it's been good. But he did basically say, it doesn't have to be America's way. You guys can do it your own way and we can just be friends, which is an interesting kind of different take on the relationship and partnership between America. It's almost felt like there's like this hostage situation over there where we'll help you, but you have to agree to support us at all times. But it seems like with Trump in office right now, there's a kind of a genuine friendship between leadership in these countries and the United States.
Yeah, he was very complimentary towards Prince in it. What's the acronym? NF something. I should know by now. The Saudi Prince. They abbreviate his name and everybody knows what it is. But it was very complimentary towards him. It seemed like a very successful visit, like you said. I'm curious to see what comes of it.
I love how you're not supposed to touch the prince, and Trump is touching him all the time. That's what I'm watching for. It's awesome.
There's some great clips of Trump walking around.
It's a power play. If you watch Trump, what Trump does when he meets people with the whole power handshake and just the way that he subtly does things, it's very different than Biden. Like when he just goes up to people and starts stroking their arm hair,
sniffing.
Yeah. There's a very different feel to American international, like, I don't know, just wherever he goes right now, there's this idea that's, I guess, perpetuated by the media, which I don't know how true it is or not. And I definitely think there's a lot of places in the world where people aren't happy with Trump. But man, when he goes to these places, it was like a sleepy little thing before when Biden went there. There was no hoopla or anything like that. But I actually don't even know, did he even go to any of these countries? I don't think any American sitting president had been to Qatar, right? I don't think.
No.
I don't know about Qatar. Qatar is iffy because they're the middleman for deals with hostages that terrorists have taken. So I don't think any American president would have wanted to be over there in Qatar. So this is sort of a statement. He's putting his foot down here in the Arabian Gulf, and it's interesting.
Yeah. And of course, from that country, the big story of the week has been a gift that they've proposed to us, which would be a Boeing 747 that would be used for
a bribe, Dan? A bribe?
This is another quid quo pro situation that we're going to get into. A bribe where they are going to give us a $400 million jet, which, is actually from an American company, from Boeing, a 747, to boost us getting a new Air Force One, which apparently we're in very dire need of, and we've been working on for a really long time and spending billions of dollars and still don't have the new ones. And so Trump's argument is, if somebody's going to give you something for free, you should just take it. It would be stupid for us to just be like, no, don't give this to us for free. We want to pay you $1 billion for it. And from that standpoint, I definitely agree with him. But, he just doesn't care anymore. It's so great because he's just like, people are going to, say what they say, but I'm going to accept the gift.
I don't know. I don't think these are great optics, especially from Qatar, who is
the tariffs. Yeah, but
most of Hamas and housing terrorist cells. I'm a firm thumbs down on the plane. I think it's unseemly to take something like that, especially from the details I've heard. It's going to go to the Trump library when it's all done. I'm not entirely even sure.
I don't know that all that stuff is
like that.
I don't know how much all that stuff is true. Like that they had like the entire plan for the plane's life. As far as I knew, they were just going to convert it to Air Force One. He was going to use it through the rest of his stay in office. And it would stay as property of the United States government. Basically, actually, I think it's the Air Force.
I just looked it up. The last two, so the two current Boeing 747s that are in service were delivered in 1990 and 1991 to George Bush Sr. So it has been a long time.
So I mean, we do need a new 747, and it's going to be given to us for free. Robin, I'm not arguing at all. The way that it looks isn't great. I don't like it. I don't like the way that it looks either. But you know what? What I was saying is Trump doesn't care anymore about optics. No. He really doesn't care. He didn't care about it. He doesn't care about the polls. He doesn't care about that with tariffs. He doesn't care about the knee-jerk reaction of the media that they're going to have with anything that he does anymore, which is, I like it. I think it's
interesting. But he does have a ripple effect. We've got to win midterms, and every one of these things becomes a talking point. And I think it matters who we're taking things from, free or not. And I'm going to be very interested to see the legality of accepting something like this. I am a firm absolutely not. This is a terrible idea. We'll see.
I think that sometimes the best gift to give is the gift of reception. And so when someone offers that to you, and it's a very shaky situation over there, maybe you accept it. That's the way in. He's fixing things. I love it.
I think Trump's definitely just approaching this from like, I don't care, and it's free, and we need it. So it's a good thing for the American taxpayers.
They're not great actors over there, and there's not. It's not
as long as there's no strings attached, though.
There's going to be strings attached. There's nobody gives someone a $400 million jet.
Have you seen how much money they're printing over there? They do give.
Well, how much?
I mean, obviously they're expecting it to gain favor, right? Yeah. Like for you to think of them positively. Like obviously they're expecting that.
But I mean, is it a personal gift? If they take it apart, they start adding in security measures. They use it, even if they use it as like a prototype for what obviously we have to have, let's say that, if Trump took this, parked it down in Florida and started using it for his, replacing his Trump train, that'd be one thing, or his current Trump plane. But it doesn't, that's not what he's, Trump train. Yeah, that'd be cool too. But he wants to use it for the presidency. So if this is going to be used for the next 15 presidents in the future, if this is the beginning of getting that kick down the road.
We don't know
I
if
think
it
about
is. I think that it's unclear exactly what its life cycle is expected to be. But I will say this: that even if he took delivery of this 747 tomorrow, it's highly unlikely that this thing would be ready before the very end.
It'll take years to retrofit.
Yeah,
I would be very curious.
Happen.
I'd be very curious to know the Qatari peoples and the leadership, their perception, because if you know about gifting culture and Arab Bedouin culture, if you know what that means to them when they give a gift, I mean, yeah, a lot of times in certain cases you could say it's just straight up bribery, but there's a certain disdain for gifts that we would have here in our culture versus in other cultures where gift giving is huge and you're expected to give gifts and other people, you know, gift. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know that it's all above board, and I don't trust Qatar, sure, but I guess I'm not opposed to it. I think it's interesting. I just think it's interesting.
And how would those people react if you refuse the gift?
Yeah, if he's like, I don't want it, I don't need it.
I've been raised on a simple principle, and it's if somebody offers you a Boeing 747, you take it.
That's a good
my mom instilled that in me at a young age.
That is a good life principle.
That must have been a good birthday present for you, a 747, Dan.
That hasn't happened yet. I haven't had the opportunity.
We could solve this problem by just having Trump gift the plane to you, Dan.
There you go. There you go. The Babylon B.
Are you qualified to fly a plane that large? How much training would it take?
Oh, geez. No, I'd have to be at around 2,000 hours before they put me in a situation like that. I've got about
interesting. I just think
about 1,900 to go.
If it happened with the Biden administration, Republicans would be rightfully hopping mad. And I agree with you. The optics are bad. If Biden had done this and say it was from Iran,
or the local government, whatever they have of Gaza, it's like we'd all be like, what the heck
Dearborn, Michigan,
from the Somali refugees and Dearborn.
My gut reaction when I first heard it was the same as my wife's, which was, how do we know it's safe? Are they going to be tracking him? Is there some sort of, I
Chinese
don't say the B word in there,
spyware,
but something to bring it down at one point? They hit a button somewhere. I mean,
well, that's why it would take forever for it to become Air Force One, is because they would strip that thing down to bare metal. And then they'd have to rebuild the entire interior and everything like that. And obviously they would do a very significant search of the plane to make sure that wasn't the case. But
it's not a Trojan horse.
It also could be, we don't know. It's not, this probably isn't a 747 that's sitting there on a runway in the Middle East. It might be a delivery directly from Boeing in America. I have no idea. We don't know any of these details, so it's all speculation. So moving on to another topic related to Trump, which is our clip of the week, which is usually a Trump clip, it seems like, because he has so many good ones. Actually, in this trip to Saudi Arabia, he had a lot of really funny one-liners and little quips that he said. He walked into this palace and he's just like, nice house. And like, it was hilarious. There wasn't great audio of that, so I'm not going to show that one, but it was hilarious. But this one, which is before his trip, he's talking about Ozempic in this clip, and he has a friend apparently who's significantly overweight, and he just he throws him under the bus for like a minute straight. And you guys have got to hear this. It's very, very funny. It's my favorite clip of the week. All right, here's the clip of Trump bashing his friend. It's hilarious.
I mean, I'll tell you a story. A friend of mine who's a businessman, very, very, very top guy. Most of you would have heard of him. A highly neurotic, brilliant businessman, seriously overweight, and he takes the fat shot drug. And he called me up, and he said, President, he calls me, he used to call me Donald, now he calls me President, so that's nice respect, but he's a rough guy, smart guy, very successful, very rich. I wouldn't even know how we would do this, but because he's got comments. President, could I ask you a question? What? I'm in London, and I just paid for this damn fat drug I take. I said, it's not working. He said, I just paid $88.
It's not working.
And in New York, I pay $1,300. What the hell is going on?
Oh my God. It's not working is my favorite.
It's not working.
You have to love all of the, if you could break down and analyze that. I mean, it really is like sitting in the room with your grandpa who has a marble or two that's kind of rolling around in there. And there's so many tangents, there's so many things, but this is his friend that he's making fun of, but in a way that's typical that you'd make fun of your friends. But it's just all the way that his voice changes and
somebody
rich.
has to have figured out who this somebody has to figure out who this is, right? I mean, how many this guy sounds
I
like
haven't
he's
seen
Bannon.
like this is like Chris Christie territory.
Yeah, Steve Bannon, Chris Christie. We should make a short list. Who is Trump's psychotic?
Chris Christie very rich?
No, I don't think so.
No.
And Bannon's not that overweight.
No, I was just thinking of.
I'm picturing like
Jabba the Hutt
here, like is what I'm picturing, and it's like
Rosie O'Donnell.
Very rich.
Very rich.
Very rich.
You wouldn't even. Some of his mumbling, I don't even understand in that. He's like very rich. You wouldn't even believe it, but he's made comments, and it's like, what does that mean? I don't even know what that means.
I heard it last week or this week, and I laughed so hard. It's like he's a stand-up comedian. I don't even know if he does it intentionally, but his wit and the quickness that he gets these little, the fat shot. You know, I want a shirt now that says like the fat shot on it.
I always tell people, I'm like, look, I'm really not out here as somebody who just gets all starry-eyed and I'm just fangirling over Donald Trump. But that is just quality TV. I don't know where, like, how are we going to cover politics when this era is over? It's going to be boring unless AOC becomes president.
JD Vance.
Don't say that.
JD Vance is pretty interesting, not in the same exact way as Donald Trump, but
yeah,
he has
a lot of intellectual
zingers. Yeah, not necessarily these like very silly ones. If people could just accept Donald Trump for who he is, they would like him a lot more because he is very funny. He has a very good wit.
Literally Hitler. That's who he is, Dan.
So he's a troll too.
On the flip side of my favorite clip of the week, I have one of my least favorite clips of the week. Which we're going to call this segment the
blue hair breakdown.
And a lot of these clips are probably going to come from libs of TikTok because she obviously that's kind of what she specializes in is finding all of these, going into the deep depths of the internet to find the craziest clips of the week. But this particular clip touches on a really important subject which we need to discuss in further detail, which is these South African refugees that are coming over to the United States. And all of a sudden, liberals are super anti-refugee. And so you got to see this clip. Okay.
I can't hear it yet, but it looks great.
She doesn't have purple hair, unfortunately, but maybe a little bit. She's got purple hair in her heart.
For all you YT South Afrikaners that are being shipped in by Trump, you need to know the majority of Americans don't want you here. You just jump back on another plane and fly your little racist YT supremacist butts right on back to your country. Go back to Africa. We do not want your racist butts here. You are not welcome in the United States, and Trump is not going to be in charge forever.
Oh my gosh.
You're not welcome here. We don't want any more Nazis in America.
Nazis?
And we're the majority. MAGA wants you to believe they're the majority, but they are not. Just saying. Fly your asses to another country where they want racists like you, because you're not welcome here.
Okay, Boomer.
Oh man.
Oh
my first take
gosh.
is that this woman has a bunch of doll heads in her freezer and like squirrels
Probably
mounted on
worse than
pipes
that.
in her backyard. Yeah.
I love that she's like, we're the majority. On one hand, they paint themselves as the resistance, but on the other hand, it's like, we're the majority. It's like really short-haired, boomer, liberal, white women. You're the majority. Like you're the future of the nation.
She looks like she could be an Episcopal priest, actually.
Yeah.
She does actually. Yes. I was thinking that the whole time, like, man, has this lady worked in the
I'm not going to be able to
Church?
sleep tonight.
No, she looks like
that's
something
just
honestly
insane.
from a horror movie. Like
Yeah,
she
no,
really
I'm more
does
than
look
happy
like
to
a
have
character.
the Afrikaners.
And I love how she's
especially
calling them
because
racists and
I
then
have
telling
to keep
them
reporting on the ones that keep getting murdered, and that's not very fun.
the irony of her calling them racists and they'll say they're xenophobic and all this other stuff, but get back on your plane and go back to Africa.
Yeah.
It's like to hear those words come out of somebody's mouth who's like saying stop, don't be racist and don't be xenophobic.
Okay, Robin, we're going to give you your first question early.
Oh,
it is
okay.
What is she cooking on her stove?
She was cooking something, meth, I would say. crystal meth of the meth variety. I don't know. I didn't notice she was cooking anything.
Squirrel stew.
Squirrel stew. Yeah.
It was definitely something vegan.
Roadkill. Yeah. I don't know. Is roadkill vegan? If you find it dead, can you eat it?
Lab grown meat.
Gross. So gross. Lab grown meth. I'm going to say meth.
Okay.
Dan, you need to get some lab grown meat for next week's show, and we're all going to eat it at the same time.
No, thank you.
No.
I refuse to put that on my body.
I've seen the videos now. Like this week, there was some video going around of the lab grown meat and how they do it. And it's like, it's the most unnatural process. And the whole thing that doesn't make any sense to me about the lab grown meat is, why do a bunch of vegetarians want to eat stuff that looks like meat? Because vegetarians and vegans are the only ones that like maybe would be interested in doing that. Like the people who are vegetarian or vegan because of animal cruelty claims. Those are the people that they're marketing to, I guess. But it's like, why does it have to look like meat? Just keep eating your little protein cubes, whatever they are, tofu and stuff like that.
Also, though, as the libertarian in me, I don't think we should ban lab-grown meat. I think if it can survive in the free market, people should be able to buy it and eat it.
Absolutely. 100%. No, banning it doesn't make any sense. If there's
they're doing it. I think in Idaho, they just banned lab-grown meat or something. I think it's stupid.
Yeah, I think that's dumb. I don't think anybody should.
There's a lot of crap you can buy and not buy.
If it wasn't subsidized, it would fail. So I think that's one of the things that people take objection to is that it's just like solar power and it's just like wind power and it's like all these other things. If it's not subsidized, it's not going to work.
But don't shape it like a cow and market it to vegans. I agree with you.
Make it look like a steak.
Yeah,
it's gross.
Yeah. It's like I saw a tweet this week about how solar power has become the number one source of energy in Europe. And this was from some European agency head or something like that posted this and had this graph and it showed solar power like is this big, tall, line, and then like nuclear and coal and all this other stuff. And it gave people the idea that solar power was generating way more energy than these other sources. And if you look in the little fine print, it said that Joel left us and he's coming right back. You back, Joel? In the fine print of this graph, it says that this is new energy added over the last year, right? And so like solar's dominating. And it's like, okay, so two things here. Number one, there's the misleading tweet, which makes you think that solar is actually the leading power source in Europe, which it's not. And number two, the reason that solar is the only new energy being added to the grid in Europe is because it's borderline illegal to add any other energy to the grid in Europe. Right?
They killed nuclear. They killed nuclear. And
if you make it illegal to do all this other stuff, of course solar is going to end up on top.
Solar's going to dominate.
It's like, wow, look how the world's coming around to solar. No, you're making it illegal to do anything other than solar.
And then the whole power grid failed the minute that they put it online.
In Spain, yeah.
It fell apart.
It was within a week of them converting to... Was it fully renewable in Spain?
Yes,
is that what they were doing?
Yes. And it doesn't scale. I've said this from the beginning. Solar doesn't scale. And to get it to scale, you're going to have to really change the way people look at power. And
also renewable energies don't respond to peaks. They can't respond to spikes and peaks.
No, because it's a flat intake. Yeah. No, it's ridiculous. Just nuclear,
are you telling me I can't use my solar panels at night?
Solar panels on a house are phenomenal. I think solar power panels individually on houses kind of as a boutique source.
You say that, Robin, and I am not an expert on this, but I was an engineer and I know some of these things. And I've told a story before about how I was given a job of trying to figure out the ideal place to put the world's largest wind turbine at one point in time off the northeast coast of the United States.
Cool.
But you'd be really surprised if you look at the economics of wind turbines and solar, how much energy goes into creating the solar panels, how much energy goes into cycling the solar panels, how much energy and how little energy they actually generate and how borderline it is to even claim that they're a net positive. Like you say, it's good for a house and it does feel good when you buy it and you put it on and you get a little bit of additional energy, but it really is way less of a benefit if you're looking at it from an environmental perspective. Like renewable energy is God. It's way less of a benefit than you think, and even more so when you talk about wind turbines, which have a very short useful life, are very expensive to repair,
and they kill birds,
and take an enormous amount of manufacturing, and a lot of energy to create.
I grew up with my dad's old sci-fi books where they predicted that by the year 2000 we'd all have our own portable nuclear generators, and I'm still waiting for that.
That would be awesome. That'd be awesome.
That's
Maybe
what I
it's
want.
Back to
I
the
want my
Future one too
Tesla
many
to be
times.
nuclear powered, and I want
Right?
to power my house when I get home. That's what
Yeah.
I want.
My kids are very interested in nuclear energy right now. And my son was reading the story about the nuclear scout. Have you heard that story? The kid who built a reactor in his backyard.
We don't know it, but it's no surprise that our atomic lover, Robin, knows it.
Didn't he get in trouble for that, Robin?
He
didn't
got in
they-
big trouble. Yeah, they came and
he
bashed it
he
up.
figured out how to do it himself. He's like 17 years old, and he
Yeah.
was doing
He was a Boy
experiments in his
Scout.
basement. And
And he got like enriched uranium and was able to make a reactor. And then they came and shut him down.
it's
All right.
Robin
so
just said
easy that a high
enriched
schooler can
uranium
do
and
it, guys.
reactor. That's a shocker.
I know some words. I know words. You'd be surprised how many
I
words
still
I know.
love.
words.
Was the segment about? I think it wasn't on the podcast, or did it get on the podcast? I don't remember.
No,
where
I
you
know
were
what you-
talking about how a nuclear bomb works. You were
Yeah,
talking about
give us 30 seconds,
the
Robin.
pistons. The pistons.
I looked it up. There are no pistons in a nuclear bomb.
The carburetor.
There are no
Carburetor.
I
You
was
don't want to gum up the carburetor before you launch that
I
thing.
was describing a nuclear reactor in my head, and it was not a nuclear bomb. No,
And
they're
even
a
those are rods. They're not pistons.
Well, now I know. I actually brought this conversation up at dinner, and my kids were like, "What did you say? How did you describe a nuclear?" Like my 10-year-old knows
It's
more
hilarious.
about how a nuclear bomb works than I do. I was like, "Well, they split the atom. They chop it in half." And then
Robin's just a fan of the explosion. after
She's just
it
yeah,
happens,
she's just a
not
fan
what
of
happened.
the
Not what
mushroom
I'm a
happened
fan
cloud.
of the politics
The
around nuclear
aftermath.
proliferation. I don't know. Look, I don't want all your fancy words and your science terms. I just want to know what it does when it hits the ground. But I think the
Right.
politics around nuclear proliferation are very interesting. I'm not a scientist. I don't purport to be a scientist. And I know now there are no pistons in a nuclear reactor, but there are rods, and then it makes steam, and then we generate.
Well, you're talking again about a nuclear reactor, not a bomb.
I know. I don't know how a
Okay.
nuclear bomb works, but I know they're impressive.
It's
And I
actually
know-
one of the most impressive things. If you do want to watch it, I have a Netflix, not Netflix, I think it's YouTube documentary that explains it really well. It's really interesting. The kids will really like it.
Oh, I've
And
watched like
you're gonna
800 of
love that.
them. My brain we watched one because my husband was like, "Wait, how did you explain how a nuclear bomb works? Sit down." And he put on this YouTube
Yeah.
video for me.
Okay.
And
So you've been educated now, but it
well,
doesn't
I've
look
been
like it's
educated
stuck.
many times, but I just,
It didn't
yeah,
stick.
you cut it in half, the atoms go, and
You got a fork and knife.
yeah, and then punk, and then
All right, so our biggest story of the week, actually, and not the B, which transitioning into those big stories that really, not necessarily the biggest news stories of the week, but just the ones that really made the biggest impact amongst our readers and got the most comments and stuff like that. The biggest story of the week, actually, this week was about Dave Ramsey going viral with mortgage advice. And I'm going to bring that up now so we can take a look at it for those who are watching. Okay, the comment section of this viral video criticizing Dave Ramsey's mortgage advice is an absolute bloodbath. So I'm not going to show the whole clip here, but basically, Dave Ramsey said never buy a house on more than a 15-year mortgage. And there was this whole rebuttal in this video about how costly that is and how difficult that is, I guess, for your average person to do. So what were people so charged up about with this?
Well, it's Gen Z versus boomers. It really is this conversation that's happening with the people that want to buy a home and can't, and older people who are saying, "Hey, we didn't have it so great when we were younger either. Just hang in there, guys." And it's kind of hard. I mean, this is cherry picking something from Dave Ramsey. Dave Ramsey has a lot of good advice. I've been through his Financial Peace University. Appreciate him. Great guy. Tried to make that very clear in the article, but there's a lot of angst that's out there. This was just going viral. Multiple people were sharing it, millions of views, and you read the comments and it's older people versus younger people. Everyone's saying, "Hey, there's a lot of defeatism among the younger generations." And there is some financial, there's financial backing for this in the current moment. If you went back 5 years ago, even just 3-4 years ago, when homes were more affordable, you wouldn't see as many comments like this. But there's a lot of people out there who want to buy homes and they just cannot, because they are not the median income in the United States for a household, I think, is $78,000. And in most places, the average price of a house is $350,000, $400,000. If you follow Dave Ramsey's advice of not going over a quarter of your income, not doing anything more than a 15-year mortgage,
But here's where I
putting
jump in.
20% down. It's very hard. So
but
there's
the
this
median first-time home buyers should not be looking at the median home price. And this was mentioned in the comments, and I 100% agree. When you are starting off, we bought our first house 18 years ago, and it was dirt cheap. And I understand the housing market has definitely increased. Houses are more expensive now, but we bought a dirt cheap house in a really bad neighborhood, a tiny, tiny little house that had an accessory unit we could rent out. We lived upstairs in like 600 square feet. And people now just have and I'm going to get hate for this because I'm not in the first time home buying market. We own our house. And it took us a long time to get to where we are, but you are building equity and you are building financial stability. You're not looking to buy a median priced home. You're looking to buy a cheap condo or an apartment or something you can get into.
Well, it all depends on where you live though, right? I mean, if you're in New York or if you're in California, the cheapest home is above the median. You're not in Oklahoma or Kansas or something like that. So in some areas, you just simply don't have the option or the luxury to choose, something that's
but you do. I think the expectation of buying a brand new this or a big house in a nice neighborhood when you're 25 and starting out and newly married, that's unrealistic. And kids these days need to sacrifice. I guess I'm the boomer, but when my kids get older and start buying homes, I'm going to tell them you're going to have to we live in a nice neighborhood. You're not going to be able to buy a house in the neighborhood like you grew up in to start off on. At some point you will, but you're going to have to make sacrifices.
Right. Yeah, and if you do make the sacrifice to buy the home in the not great neighborhood, that's what's going to give you the opportunity to buy the home in the nice neighborhood later. But you have to do it when you're young because you have to let your finances grow with the home. You have to establish the equity and, you have to trust that the housing market's going to go up over time and that in 15 years, you'll be able to sell that house for more than you paid for it and be able to use that to then get into the neighborhood that you like. And these are all the things that everybody's so short-sighted. The young kids and stuff like that in this country are so short-sighted that they just want to leapfrog directly to the nice suburban home. And that comes from this culture of instant gratification that we've got now, which really is a derivative of the internet and electronic devices. I do think about like, for example, we have neighbors. We're in a 3-bed ranch, 1 bathroom. It's a starter home. We're in the middle of this because we've been looking for a second home for a while, but you mean a new home, not a second home?
Well, yes. Our second home to us.
We've been looking on the shores in Vermont for a nice lake house.
I'm not Bernie Sanders. I'm not an oligarch. No, but we're in that position where it's like, okay, all the things that we wanted to, let's say that, we'd put an extra $100,000 down for a house that would be slightly nicer than what we have right now. Well, that's like $200,000 to $300,000 more. So yeah, we have more equity, but we're not actually able to afford. I mean, theoretically we could, but with the interest rates, and that's one of the biggest things is the interest rates are still up there.
Yeah, they've gone way up.
And I think older people, there's some truth on both sides. I look at it and I go, okay, older individuals, they are discounting the fact that the dollar is worth significantly less than it was just 5 years ago. According to a recent report, you have to make 70% more in order to afford a home right now than in 2019. So what happened under the pandemic with printing money was absolutely criminal, and nobody's been held to account for that.
Right.
And so older people that are looking at retirement, I mean, I think of the young couple that moved in next door to us, early 20s, have a baby on the way. They paid 2.5 times for their house what we paid for ours right next door. Right. Comparable
and
homes.
Probably at a higher interest rate.
Way higher.
At a higher interest rate. And so you look at that and it's like, okay, they're just starting out and they are saddled with so much more debt than us. How's that going to affect them 10, 20, 30 years down the line? But I also think younger people don't understand people who were buying their first home in the 80s with everything that happened in the Carter administration, inflationary cycles. You had cheaper homes, but there were homes that had interest rates that above 15%.
Oh, double-digit interest rates. Yeah. Oh, when we bought our house here and got a dirt cheap interest rate, my uncle came by and he's like, oh, when we bought our house in 1987, they had like a 17% interest rate on it.
Yeah, I mean, it cost like 3 pennies and an acorn, but it was at like 17%.
It's ridiculous.
The criticism, though, of Dave Ramsey here, which we didn't really talk about, like, I don't understand the criticism of him. He has a method, right? And if you follow that method, you're going to be in a good financial situation.
Yeah.
Whether it's realistic or not right now under current market conditions is questionable, right? Because, only going with a 15-year mortgage and having to put 25%, only taking a house that's 4x what you make in annual income, make prices you out of the market in a lot of markets. And I understand that, but the reality is that this isn't a permanent situation with the housing market. I don't believe. I think that housing prices are going to collapse soon.
Yeah.
I
Yes.
do. And I think that the Fed is going to back off of interest rates and that those interest rates are going to end up coming down.
When do you think, Dan? What's your estimate?
This is not financial advice. I don't know. I've been waiting. I've been not waiting for it, but I've been anticipating it for a while. And I think that right now, the reality is that people can't follow the Dave Ramsey advice anymore and get into a home in a lot of different areas. And therefore, the home sales are just going to continue to slow. And then home sales stop, the prices have to come down. And I think in a lot of different places they are. And I think that economically we're in a place where, it's starting to make sense for the interest rates to be pulled back. So, it will be soon. It will be in the next couple of years. It will be under the Trump administration. I think there will be a correction. Is it going to be a correction to pre-2019 levels? I don't know. I don't think so. I think we're past that. And that's the sad thing about the American housing market is that just over time, so many corporations have just been buying up so many homes that you're almost out of the market just in the sense of competition. Because when we were buying our first home in Florida, it was very difficult for us to buy a home, even though it was a buyer's market. Because every single home that came onto the market, there were blind cash offers for the home that were over asking price, no matter where the home was and no matter what the home was.
And they're investors.
And they're all investors. Some of them not even Americans. There's foreign investors, a lot of Brazil, a lot of China, a lot of investment firms that are just simply, they don't even care. They'll waive an inspection. They don't even care about the inspection. They just want to buy them.
We tried to buy a house. We were living in the Bay Area and we were trying to buy a house in the peninsula. And when you go to an open house, just to go walk through, the first thing the realtor will ask is, are you pre-approved? And do you have a 50% cash down payment on like a $1.8 million, $2 million house? They won't even want you to walk through the house unless you have $1 million.
In the Bay Area will all get full cash offers though.
Well, and that's a lot of Chinese investors who come in because this is a whole other thing, but it's hard to buy a house in China and make it worth an investment. So all of these wealthy Chinese investors come in and dump cash and the houses sit vacant.
Yeah. So what you're saying is that our government should probably keep foreign entities and large corporations from buying homes and should also deregulate definitely so that you could actually have, there's no new starter like our house, there's like nothing. All the homes that are going up in every single Midwestern city that I drive through
are luxury
in
homes.
The last 5 years, they are all these 400,000 to 600,000 homes and going up in farm fields. Mm-hmm. And they're like, I visited a friend in Ohio and it was interesting because he's a pastor. He's got Indians in Ohio from India that are attending his church, Christian Indians, like 40 of them now in this 200 and something person church. And, but they're also building these Hindu temples everywhere. And I'm like, why are there so many Indians coming in? And there's all these homes and seems like these things are connected. And so this all kind of goes together with why Trump was elected. And I wish that Congress would maybe, I don't know, pay attention and do something other than taking 2-week-long vacations, which they just did.
Yeah. As much talk as we've had about what Trump is accomplishing, honestly, most of it's not true accomplishment because most of it's by executive order. And we all know that once you get out of office, if you lose power, executive orders disappear pretty quickly. I actually had a conversation with my dad yesterday, and I don't know how you guys feel about this, but if you have in your first term of your presidency do a bunch of executive orders and you end up being a 2-term president, by the time you get out of the presidency, people forget about what you did as an executive order in the first term. They're only fired up about what you did in the second term or whatever. Or if you have somebody from your same party follow you for 4 years or 8 years, and then all of those executive orders, the Clinton executive orders, the George W. Bush executive orders, they get ignored because of the fact that it's not this 4-year turnaround, right? So if Trump can have somebody from the Republican Party follow him up, there's a lot better chance that these executive orders actually stick because 12 years from now, is anyone going to be thinking about the executive orders he's writing right now? Probably not. They're not going to be fired up about it, right?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think, but Congress also has to act and codify 100%. and legislate these things.
But Congress can't legislate anything anymore.
I know.
It's too partisan. Every single issue is too partisan. Meaningful legislation almost can't happen in the United States anymore. Well, you would need a supermajority for anything meaningful to happen. And even so, even with a majority, they don't even want to get on board with Donald Trump's
this brings us
actions.
into maybe another topic this week that you had the David Hogg drama with the DNC, and something that I thought was really interesting with this as I was reading it. So you look at the Republican Party, and we are so schismed. You have I don't want to use all the terms, but you have the woke right, the neocons, the whatever people, the labels people put on them, and some of them are real, some of them are just hooey. But the Republican Party is notorious for a lot of infighting. I think there's a lot of psychology behind it because conservatives tend to be more like, I don't want to say principled, but we fight for our ground more, whereas the Democrats tend to just circle the wagons and go. Like,
right.
This is the talking point and go. But looking at the David Hogg stuff, it's the first time in a while that I've seen some serious a schism really starting to divide, where he's saying, I mean, I don't want to give David Hogg a lot of credit because he's a little bit of a ding-a-ling, but he's saying, hey, look, we've got all these old Democrat, ineffective politicians that have been in office for 20, 30. Debbie Dingell's family, do you know this, has been in her congressional seat for 100 years.
92 years.
92 years.
She took over, her husband was in, she took over, what, 10 years ago?
10 years ago, and then he took over his dad's seat, and his dad was in for like 60-something. It was crazy. So
he was, I think her husband was in for like 50-something years, and then he took it over from his dad. Yeah, it's so literally a century of Dingles.
A century of Dingles. But
that's the name of this episode this week, a century of Dingles.
She's a Michigan representative too. I think,
well, sorry, Joel.
She might be Adam Ford's representative.
But
area.
But David Hogg is saying, hey, look, we've got to get some of these old guys out.
For the listeners who don't know, Robin, some people don't realize who David Hogg is and or what his current position is.
David Hogg,
show a picture. He's very manly.
He's very manly.
Mr. B, get on that.
He's in his early 20s. He was involved in the Parkland school shooting. There's a lot of discussion whether or not he was actually on campus when the shooting happened, but he's kind of made himself a public figure talking about gun control and very extreme positions on gun control and very liberal, very left opinions. He's very young. He's very up and coming. He's scrappy. He's trying so hard to make a name for himself. And he was put in as the DNC co-chair 3 months ago. He's never held a political office. He has very
he was actually voted in, right?
Voted in. Yeah, but there's a lot of discussion whether or not that vote. So then there was infighting because they said he wasn't diverse enough and they need to go back and look at the votes because they should have put in a woman. This is the story.
Well, he got removed, right? He's not.
No, he hasn't been officially removed yet. He's still there, but they're holding like a vote to take a vote to take a vote. Like he's under fire and his position is in question right now. So then he got in as the DNC vice chair or co-chair. And as soon as he got in, he said, hey, we've got to make some reforms in the Democratic Party.
I think he's going to be ousted. I think that they are doing it.
Well, they're saying they
have to, they want to do a new vote, but the problem is that the new vote requires that it's a diverse person.
Yes.
So he's not a diverse person. So he's not out yet, but basically like he's not going to be eligible to be the co-chair anymore.
But anyway, all of this is to say, seeing him kind of create this division, it's heartening to see a division forming, kind of solidifying in the Democratic Party, whereas normally they just take marching orders and go. And to see David Hogg, of all people, the most left liberal progressive voice not the most. It's hard to pick a nut out of the pile of nuts, but like the best nut. But he's creating this division, and I'm curious to see where it goes. I think they're going to kick him out and keep all these old breed Democrats running the show. But keep an eye on it because we might actually see a schism in the party that goes somewhere. And if we can divide the party,
I mean, I think there's definitely a schism because some people want to go to the Jasmine Crockett route, and then other people want to come more towards the middle, which them coming more towards the middle, they consider to be Tim Walz or Pete Buttigieg, just because they're white males.
Or Gavin Newsom.
Or Gavin Newsom, yeah. That's them coming to the middle. So there is a schism already, but there's the sad thing is that in wake of all the winning, there's such a schism in the right too. So you have two divided parties that are now fighting against each other, infighting and fighting against each other. So it's a war on many fronts. So another article that went super viral on our site this week, which we'll do this last one, is very funny. It's about Google and search results and how they've gotten worse, not better. How Google search results have gotten worse and not better in the age of AI, which is hilarious. I've actually experienced this myself too.
Oh, me too.
So when you search on Google now, and we're showing a screen now with some pictures of people's search results, and I'll read some of them to the people who aren't watching, but when you search on Google now, the entire top of your search result now is an AI overview, they call it. And it's like basically like if you had asked ChatGPT the same question that you just searched for, which in theory is probably where this is all going. And Google's probably smart to start embracing that rather than just falling behind, like in not having AI involved. But the problem is AI is not ready to be the official search results yet, right? AI still needs work. AI still hallucinates. And so there's
a lot of work.
Many examples of this. So people are saying there's this tweet that went absolutely viral that just simply says, I love that Google is useless now because of AI. That happened on May 13th. This tweet happened on May 13th. And what she shows in a follow-up tweet is a screenshot of a search for, is Marlon Brando in Heat? And for those of you who may not know, Marlon Brando is an actor. Heat is a movie. And so somebody was looking up, is he in that movie? And so
in the movie Heat.
The AI overview answer is no, Marlon Brando is not in Heat, quote unquote, with the quotes around the words in and Heat. Marlon Brando Marlon Brando was a highly respected and influential actor who passed away in 2004 from respiratory failure and other health complications. The term in heat typically refers to the reproductive cycle of a female animal and is not applicable to a deceased person.
Oh,
you gotta just think in your mind, imagine in your mind the robot getting this question and misunderstanding the question and just like being like, oh, these people, what do they mean is Marlon Brando in Heat? He's dead.
They're so dumb. We have to take over the earth.
Oh, yeah.
That's so funny.
A deceased person can't be in heat.
Very literal. It's like
it's
like
very
an
literal.
autistic AI. Like it takes things very, very literally.
I do have to say though, as bad as a response as that is, I'm actually very surprised by how many times it gets things like that right. It does read context cues pretty well most of the time. At least ChatGPT does. I don't know about Google. So anyway, this one's one of my all-time favorites, and this actually was posted around the time that this AI overview first launched. So this one's a little bit older, but somebody typed into their Google search just simply, I'm feeling depressed, and the answer comes back.
Oh,
there are many things you can try to deal with your depression. One Reddit user suggests jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge. So AI is scouring Reddit for life advice for when
it's
people
just providing expedient solutions.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's horrible.
Oh my gosh, that one's hilarious. But I mean, it's sad but hilarious. What did Bob Dylan weigh? I love this one. While there isn't a definitive official weight for Bob Dylan, it cannot be defined. It cannot be defined. It's widely speculated that he weighed around 6 or 7 pounds.
What information are they even pulling on this?
I don't know. It comes from Reddit. It looks like it comes from Reddit. Some fans have noted his thin build in photos and videos, leading to discussion. So what I'm guessing is
very thin
this
build.
Thing. Look at the comments in Reddit, and some people were probably joking around and saying he can't weigh more than 6 or 7 pounds. You know, like there's some comment like that. You know, like, and it's using this as information to give as a result on a search. And that's
I also love.
insane.
Let's not skip over the "Did you mean?" Somebody typed in, what did Bob Dylan weigh? That is correct. That's grammatically correct. And it changed it to, did you mean, what did Bob Dylan weight? So it actually changed it
the grammar.
A grammatically incorrect.
No, I was just asking, what did he weigh? I don't.
Yeah, but then it says, did you mean, what did Bob Dylan weight? What that? And so that, like even there, it's trying to break the grammar, and it's.
That's probably part of their old algorithm, but it is still obviously getting it wrong. Then there's this one: can I use gasoline to cook spaghetti? No, you can't use gasoline to cook spaghetti faster. Thank the Lord it said that. But you can use gasoline to make a spicy spaghetti dish. Here's a recipe for spaghetti cooked with gasoline.
I love number 2.
Follow the package instructions for cooking spaghetti. 2, in a separate pan, saute garlic and onion and gasoline until fragrant. 3, add diced tomatoes, red pepper flakes, salt, and pepper, and simmer for 10 minutes. Toss the cooked spaghetti in the gasoline sauce.
Don't do that, by the way.
Disclaimer.
Do not do
that.
I have teenage sons, so I want to be very careful. Never cook food in gasoline.
Yeah, there's just so many of these. I love the fruits that end with applum, bananum, strawberry, tomatum, and coconut. I don't know why coconut is so funny.
Yeah, anybody listening to this should go on to Not the Bee and just scroll through, because some of these are a little more visual to see the answers when you see them written out. But they're
how did Master Chief die? According to a Reddit post, Master Chief dies of chlamydia after losing his green virgin status. However, at the end of Halo 3 in 2007, Master Chief's fate is left ambiguous.
What? Okay, some of these have to be
perfect.
So there's a post here at the end that actually was interesting, where it talks about how these bad search results could theoretically actually be more profitable. And it goes, if you know about search engine optimization, SEO, you've seen how things have shifted. It used to be, I mean, I'm old enough to remember in the yesteryears, back when YouTube was just launching and Facebook was just becoming a thing, you'd go onto Google and you type something in and you'd get something really useful. Like you own an F-150, you're going to get an F-150 forum where there are 20 people talking about this specific issue that you need solved. Then when YouTube came along, you could go on YouTube and you could find videos that were somebody showing specifically how to repair things, which you can still largely do, to YouTube's credit, even though they're owned by Google. But nowadays it's not that way. It's, you end up getting a bunch, even competitors. Like I've used DuckDuckGo for the better part of a decade to try to avoid Google's ecosystem, but they're just as bad, because not only do I get a bunch of ads and AI results and all the rest of it, but it's a bunch of AI generated nonsense. You know, today we're going to look at how to do this, and it's like 16 paragraphs before you get to whatever the AI generated solution is. And it's like, I want to actually, it's like being on hold. I want to talk to a person. And I guess that's what it feels like to me. I want to actually read things that somebody wrote when I'm looking for an answer.
Good luck with that. Almost, it's like 97% of content on the internet generated in 2025 is at least subsidized with some sort of AI. And this is like the first full year of AI being like a part of daily life for people too. So good luck with that. Should we transition to the forum?
Yes, I've got them right here.
All right. Do you want me to pull that page up so that people can follow along?
So if you go to the forum, so here's what I'm going to read this week. We're trying different things with forum headlines, and you go to the updates section. These are people who have been nominated by other forum members, had their headlines nominated for a little recognition. We do this kind of correlated post usually at the end of the day, where all the ones who have been kind of mentioned in these comments get featured. So these are, they're called updated or mega duded comment or headlines, and I think there's a really good array of different headlines. So for our top one, we have @J Flack, Biden shocked to learn that the media covered up the previous president's dementia. That's a good one. That's good. I'm going to steal that, Jay.
It could be worded a little bit better.
Yeah, it could be a little. It could be a little.
If it was worded properly, it would be a very good headline.
Yeah.
Are you looking at my screen, by the way? So if I just scroll down, you'll just read it from mine.
Yeah. I'll read from yours. That's good. Let me bring my mic around. Okay, this one's great. Home Depot adds self-deportation kiosks. This is @Tyler Montgomery. And there's a picture. Oh, that's terrible. That's
my God.
Really funny.
That's
all right.
Perfect place for it, though. I mean, let's be real. That would be a good place for it.
There's a food chain down here called Pollo Tropical. Pollo Tropical. That's what I said. That would be the ideal place for it, actually, for a kiosk. That is
for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, Dusty Niederlander. That's a good reference, I'm guessing, to the Three Amigos as your name. Trump offers MAGA hat in exchange for one of those cool red picnic tablecloth things, and it's the Saudi Arabian. It's the prince. He's got the
shemagh.
The shemagh. Yeah.
That's a good Photoshop too.
The tactical schmog. All right. @middle-aged machinist. Seasoned parents just give toddler cardboard box for birthday present. You are not wrong there. My 3-year-old, my son's about to be 3, and I don't buy birthday presents for my kids until they turn about 6. I know that sounds terrible, but why?
I have a funny story about that. Sorry, go on.
Oh no, I'm just gonna say they'll take a cardboard box. I just give them.
My wife, my daughter just wanted a cardboard box house for Christmas. I think this is 2 years ago, probably. And I'm like, okay, I'll just, whatever boxes we get from Amazon, I'll just set them aside, and whatever. And my wife went online and actually spent like $110 buying a cardboard box
playhouse.
And I'm like, what? What are you doing? And it was just a cardboard box. I mean, it was literally, we paid over $100, and they shipped us a flat cardboard box.
Did it come in a box?
No, it was
That's
just
a good
a box.
question, Robin.
It was self-contained. And it was
funny.
just a flat box shipped with a little bit of, whatever around it. Anyway.
That's funny. All right. The next up is ShowQuest, who's one of our writers who came up from the forum. He now works at the Babylon Bee. Report: aides consider putting Kamala Harris in wheelbarrow when she was drunk. Oh.
So that's a riff on
the
Biden.
wheelchair.
The report that they were considering buying a wheelchair for Biden if he was reelected.
All right, we'll do two more. At JB280, Eric Swalwell, who unknowingly dated a Chinese spy for 4 years, warned Secretary Kristi Noem he has a BS detector. Okay, that one's funny. I think we could tighten it up just a little bit, probably make it, but it's a good back and forth. Oh man, this is another middle-aged machinist. Taylor Lorenzi laid it about potential new dating prospects.
Oh my gosh,
it's the Menendez brothers.
Oh boy.
Is that who that is? The picture?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
I think so. They're eligible, or there's conversation about paroling.
Yeah.
This is fun. I mean, some of these are pretty good.
I want to read this next one. At Mr. Hero, wife tells husband she will be home from shopping in about 2 half NBA playoff minutes. That's great.
2.5, I guess.
2.5. Oh yeah, sorry.
NBA playoff minutes.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, that's about 3 hours.
And let's do Abraham Lincoln. Cancerous growth in Joe Biden's prostate determined to be the mainstream media.
I have heard too much about Joe Biden's prostate this week. Goodness.
True. Oh my gosh. You guys are really funny. You forum people. Keep up the good work. It's great. And we'll keep reading these. Good job.
Right. Mr. B, I think we'll do a quick segment this week. Maybe just one or two quick questions about our personal lives. What do you got for us?
Okay, Robin. Joel still uses DuckDuckGo. When was the last time you used it?
DuckDuck, like the search engine?
Yeah, that's a joke. You don't have to answer that. Okay, your real question is
yesterday.
What's the most liberal thing that you have done recently?
The most liberal thing, like politically liberal. Oh man!
Even your thought process, anything.
You could have liberally.
I've got a good one. So we're looking at preschools for my 3-year-old for this coming year, and I found the perfect preschool. It's the time I want. It's cheap. I only want one like 2 days a week. I just want a little. And there's no preschools you can find that are more than like 4 or 5 days a week. And it looked perfect. The price was great. It had phenomenal reviews. But it's a Presbyterian church, and I went and toured it, and there's like rainbow flags, not in the preschool, but on the church. And when I looked up the website, it says like all inclusive church, and we take all comers and LGBTQ friendly. And I think I'm going to still send them there because the preschool looks really, really good.
Yes, that is the woke branch. The super woke branch.
That's what I talked to some of the other B people, and I'm like, and I talked to some friends, if they can keep if the preschool can just be preschool in shapes and stuff, it's separate from the church itself. So I'm considering sending my son to a woke Presbyterian preschool.
Dan, your question is, what do you think about that?
A woke Presbyterian preschool? I wouldn't do it.
I know.
I wouldn't do it.
Find me another one.
The biggest one of my main functions in life is protecting my children from wokeness.
Me too. But
PC USA is the one that legitimately they have drag queens, trans pastors, and they just fired all of their overseas mission staff and said that telling people about Jesus isn't actually important.
Well, maybe we won't then. I haven't signed the paperwork, but we're
here for you, Robin.
Thanks.
I mean, as a preschool, look, I went to a Catholic preschool and I turned out okay.
I went to a Baptist preschool.
These days, that's Catholic would be superior to almost any other denomination. But when I wrote an article about this on Not the Bee. It was, I think, 4 years ago now, 3 maybe, when my girls were trying to find a place to go to summer camp. And obviously we wanted to find a place that was, a Christian summer camp, so they're not exposed to just everything. Right. And we were having such a difficult time. We were up in North Carolina, and we finally found one that we thought that we liked, that was close to our house, and it was Presbyterian. And I There's the good Presbyterians and the bad Presbyterians, and they try to make it. The bad Presbyterians try to make it really hard to find out that they're the bad ones. Like you have to really dig and research. So my wife did a bunch of research and eventually found like the mission statement of this camp. And I'll put a link maybe to this article in the description of the video. I'll find the article, but I posted the actual like mission statement of this camp, and it's shocking. It is shocking when you read. They don't only like allow any person who comes to be a counselor, they'll accept as they are, and they'll also allow them to be a counselor for whichever gender they choose that day.
Jeez.
Yeah,
to be, it was insane. And so they'll just take some 18-year-old kid, 20-year-old kid, 24-year-old guy that says, I'm a female, and they will let them sleep with your children in the same room as them. They will let them shower. They will let them shower in the same location as that gender. And it's based purely upon verbal agreement, and it can change day to day. It even explicitly talks about that. And so they're just basically this is an invitation to predators. Yeah. It's an invitation saying, hey, we have a bunch of children here that we're putting together and we're letting them sleep and bathe. No. Do you want to come here and sleep with the ones that you want to sleep with? That's what they are. That's what the broadcast is.
I would not.
This was a Presbyterian church.
It really is. I'm reading the article now because I remember this and I found it really quickly. And it really is truly like, if you want to just understand how far gone some church denominations are, all you have to do is, the biblical justification where they try to get into that is always the funniest thing. It just makes me laugh because Jesus always accepted people as they are. I'm like, well, what about literally every single time that he told people to repent?
Go and sin no more.
Specifically, go like stop sinning.
The fact that a prostitute
to you and
is welcomed to sit with Jesus doesn't mean that Jesus accepts everything the prostitute has ever done as okay.
Right.
It's the most insane interpretation of the Bible. Anyway, I think that's probably it for this week. Thank you guys for joining us. Don't send your kids to Presbyterian camps until you have looked to see if they're the good Presbyterians or the bad ones.
And make sure you take the good
ones in Moscow, Idaho
shot.
are okay.
And honestly, I wish that I could just define what that is. It's like PC USA versus PC whatever. I don't remember. I'm not a Presbyterian.
It's PC USA versus I'm forgetting the other one.
Yeah,
and then there's other denominations,
and then they splinter, and they've now splintered too. So the good ones have splintered, and even the good ones have now splintered into half the good ones are bad, and half the good ones are still good. And it's like,
find me a cheap preschool in Salt Lake, then not just a cheap, but a good. I just need that's your guys' job. Everybody's job.
There's not some good Mormon ones around.
Yeah, the Mormon ones aren't going to be woke. They might be Mormon.
We don't do preschools like that. They don't do commercial run. Maybe they do. I don't know. Hit me up in the comments. Find me a good Salt Lake preschool for my son.
Then everybody's going to know where you send your kids to preschool.
Oh, gosh, that's true. No, shut it down. Shut it down.
Shut it down.
Shut it down.
All right, guys. Shut it down. We're shutting it down for the week. We'll see you guys next Friday.
Bye.